The BBC studio went silent. Dean Martin, 50 years old, legendary entertainer, member of the Rat Pack, had just looked at the Beatles on live television and said something that could have started a war between generations. "You're talented kids, I'll give you that. But you're making music for kids. Screaming teenagers who don't know what real music sounds like. What me and Frank do, what we've done for 30 years, that's real artistry. What you're doing, it's a phase, a trend, and trends end." The camera operators held their breath. The producers in the control room tensed. This was live, national television, and Dean Martin had just dismissed the Beatles as children playing at music. Everyone waited for John Lennon to explode, for Paul to defend them, for the interview to collapse into conflict. But John Lennon smiled, calm, respectful, almost grateful, and said something that would make Dean Martin rethink everything he thought he knew about the next generation. What happened in the next 10 minutes wasn't a fight. It was a conversation between two generations of artists about music, about respect, about what it means to create something that lasts. And by the end, Dean Martin wouldn't be calling them kids anymore. This is that story. November 16th, 1963. BBC Television Centre, London, 7 p.m. The interview was a coup for the BBC. Dean Martin was in London for a brief tour. The Beatles were exploding in popularity across Britain. Someone had the idea to put them together. Old guard meets new wave. Established artistry meets emerging phenomenon. Good television. Dean Martin arrived at the studio in a perfectly tailored suit. Confident, charming. The man who'd performed with Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. The man who'd defined cool for a generation. He was funny, talented, and utterly convinced that what he did was real entertainment, and what the Beatles did was manufactured teenage hysteria. The Beatles arrived in their matching suits. Young, 21, 22, 23 years old, excited but nervous. This was Dean Martin, a legend, someone they'd grown up listening to, someone they respected deeply, even if their music was completely different. The setup was simple. Dean behind a desk, the Beatles on a couch facing him. Cameras, lights, live broadcast, millions watching. The interview started well. Dean was charming, made jokes, asked about their tour, their fans, the screaming. Everyone laughed. Easy conversation. Professional. Then Dean shifted, leaned back in his chair. That signature Dean Martin smile. Half genuine, half performing. "So let me ask you boys something, and I mean this respectfully. You're talented, obviously. You can play your instruments. You can carry a tune. But don't you ever feel like you're pandering, making music for teenage girls instead of making real art?" The Beatles looked at each other. Was this a trap? An insult disguised as a question? Paul answered first. Diplomatic. Careful. "We make music we love. If teenage girls love it too, that's wonderful. But we're not pandering. We're creating what feels authentic to us." Dean nodded. Sure. But authentic for who? For you? Or for the market? Because from where I sit, you're making music that'll be forgotten in 5 years. What me and Frank Sinatra do, what Sammy does, that's timeless. That's artistry. What you're doing, it's a phase, a trend, and trends end. There it was. The dismissal, the condescension, not cruel, not mean, but definite. Dean Martin, voice of the establishment, telling the Beatles they were temporary, disposable, kids playing at art while the grown-ups did real work. The studio tensed. This could go badly. This could become a generational war broadcast live to millions. But John Lennon did something unexpected. He smiled, leaned forward, and spoke with genuine respect. "Mr. Martin, can I tell you something? You and Frank Sinatra are the reason any of us picked up instruments." Dean blinked. That wasn't the response he expected. "What do you mean?" "I mean, when I was a kid, I listened to you on the radio, you and Frank and Bing Crosby, and I heard how you controlled a room, how you made people feel something with just your voice. No screaming fans, no hysteria, just pure talent making people stop and listen. That's what we want, what we aspire to. We're not trying to replace you, we're trying to learn from you." Dean's expression shifted, softer, less defensive. You listened to me. All of us did, Paul added. My dad played your records constantly. He'd tell me, that's what a real performer sounds like. That's what it means to command a stage. You were his hero, which made you my hero. Different kind of music, sure, but same goal, make people feel something real. George spoke up, quiet, sincere. You called what we do a trend. Maybe you're right. Maybe in 5 years, nobody will care about Beatles music. But if that happens, it won't be because we weren't trying to make real art. It'll be because we failed. Not because we aimed low. We're aiming for what you and Frank have. That timeless quality, that respect. We just don't know if we'll get there. Ringo nodded. And honestly, Mr. Martin, we're terrified we won't. We're terrified we'll be forgotten. That we're just a novelty. That all the screaming is drowning out the actual music. That's why your opinion matters. Why this conversation matters. Because you've done what we're trying to do. You've lasted. You've created something that matters beyond the moment. Dean Martin sat back, processing. These weren't defensive kids. These weren't angry young rebels dismissing the past. These were artists, young, inexperienced, but genuine, respectful. Scared they might not be good enough to join the ranks of people like Dean Martin. You're scared, Dean asked. You? The biggest thing in music right now? You're scared? Terrified, John confirmed. Because we know the difference between popular and important, between famous and lasting. Right now we're popular. We're famous. But are we important? Will we last? We don't know. And that keeps us up at night. Dean looked at them, really looked, saw himself 30 years ago, young, talented, desperate to prove he belonged, desperate to be more than a novelty, more than just another singer, wanting to create something that mattered. Can I tell you something? Dean said quietly. Something I've never said on television before? Please, Paul said. I was terrified too. When I started, when I was your age, I was just another Italian kid from Ohio trying to make it. And the established singers, the ones who'd been doing it for years, they looked at me like I was nothing. Like I was a joke, a trend that would pass. It hurt. It made me angry. But it also made me work harder. Made me prove them wrong. He paused. And you know what the irony is? Now I'm the old guy, the establishment, looking at you and thinking you're just a trend. Just kids who don't understand real artistry. And I'm wrong, just like those old singers were wrong about me. The studio was completely silent. This wasn't the interview anyone expected. This was real, raw, honest. You're not wrong, John said gently, about some of it. A lot of what's popular right now is manufactured, is pandering, is fake. We see it too. We worry we're part of it, but we're trying not to be. We're trying to write real songs, about real feelings, about love and loss and confusion and hope. Same things you and Frank sing about, just different sound, different generation, same humanity. Dean nodded slowly. You write your own songs, all of them. All of them, Paul confirmed. John and I mostly. George is starting to write more. We don't use professional songwriters. We create everything ourselves because we need it to be authentic, need it to be ours. Dean sat forward. Interested now, really interested. How does that work? The writing process? John explained. Usually Paul or I will come up with a melody, a chord progression, some lyrics, then we'll work on it together. Challenge each other, make it better. Sometimes we argue. Sometimes we throw the whole thing out. But we keep working until it feels honest, until it says what we need it to say. And the harmonies? Dean asked. Those tight 3-part harmonies. Where did you learn that? From the Everly Brothers, Paul said. From you and Frank, actually. We studied how you and Sinatra would blend, how you'd support each other's voices. We applied that to our own style. Different sound, same technique. Dean smiled, genuinely impressed. You studied me and Frank? Religiously, George added. We'd listen to your albums and try to figure out how you did it, how you made it look so effortless, how you connected with audiences without the hysteria, just pure talent and charisma. We wanted that. still want it. But you have the hysteria, Dean pointed out. The screaming. Doesn't that feel good? Validating? It feels overwhelming, John admitted. Sometimes we can't even hear ourselves play. The screaming drowns everything out. We finish a concert and we have no idea if we were any good, if the music mattered, or if they would have screamed anyway. That's terrifying because we want to be good. We want the music to matter more than the phenomenon. Dean leaned back, processing this. These weren't arrogant kids drunk on fame. These were artists struggling with the same questions he'd struggled with, the same fears, the same doubts, just amplified by a level of fame Dean had never experienced. And you're good, Dean said. It wasn't a question anymore, an admission, a recognition. I've listened to your records, not just heard them on the radio. Actually listened, sat down with a whiskey and really listened, and you're good. She loves you. I want to hold your hand. Please, please me. Simple songs, but effective. The melodies are strong. The harmonies are tight. The lyrics are clever. That's not accident. That's not luck. That's craft. That's work. Thank you, Paul said quietly. That means more than you know. Coming from you, Dean smiled. Real smile now. Not performing, just genuine. I called you kids. That was dismissive, disrespectful. You're not kids. You're musicians, artists. Younger than me, sure. Making different music, absolutely. But artists nonetheless. And I apologize for dismissing you. The Beatles looked shocked. Dean Martin apologizing? On live television? To them? You don't need to apologize, John said. You're right that we're young, that we're unproven, that we might be a trend that passes, but we're grateful you're taking us seriously enough to have this conversation, to treat us like artists instead of just a phenomenon. Dean leaned forward. Can I give you some advice? Artist to artist? Not old guard to new wave? Just one performer to another? Please, George said. We need all the advice we can get. Don't let the screaming define you. Don't let the fame become more important than the music. I've seen it happen. To talented people. They get popular and they start chasing the popularity instead of the art. They become performers instead of artists. They give people what they want instead of what they need. And they lose themselves. He looked at each of them. You have something real. I can see it. I can hear it. Don't let it become manufactured. Don't let producers or managers or record executives tell you what to make. Keep writing from your hearts. Keep being authentic. And in 30 years, when some new kids come along making music you don't understand, remember this moment. Remember what it felt like to be dismissed, and treat them with respect. Paul was crying, not sobbing, just tears, moved. Thank you. We'll remember, I promise. And one more thing, Dean added. You're not replacing us. You're not making what we do obsolete. You're expanding it, adding to it. Music is big enough for Frank Sinatra and the Beatles, for Dean Martin and whoever comes next. There's room for all of us. Different generations, different sounds, same love of creating something beautiful. Don't let anyone tell you it's a competition, it's a conversation, and you're part of it now. The interview continued for another 20 minutes, but different now. Not interviewer and subjects. 2 generations of artists talking about craft, about fear, about what it means to create something that might last. When it ended, when the cameras stopped rolling, Dean stood up, walked over to the Beatles, shook each of their hands. You're going to be fine, better than fine. You're going to be great. And someday when you're my age, remember to be kind to the new kids, because they're terrified too. We will, John promised. And thank you for seeing us, for respecting us, for treating us like we matter. You do matter. Don't forget that. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Dean Martin died in 1995. At his memorial service, Paul McCartney sent a statement. It was read aloud. Dean Martin taught me something essential in 1963, that generational conflicts are stupid, that music isn't a competition between old and new, that respect is earned by respecting others. He called us kids, then he apologized, then he treated us like artists. I've tried to do the same for every new artist I've met since, because Dean showed me how. Thank you, Dean. for the music, for the kindness, for their respect. November 16, 1963. Dean Martin called the Beatles kids on live television. They could have been offended, could have fought back, could have started a generational war. Instead, they responded with respect, with humility, with genuine admiration for what Dean had accomplished. And Dean, to his credit, heard them, saw them, recognized his younger self in their fear and ambition. What could have been conflict became conversation. What could have been dismissal became mutual respect. What could have been the old guard fighting the new wave became two generations of artists recognizing they were part of the same tradition. Just different chapters. That's the lesson. That's the gift. That's what Dean Martin and the Beatles taught everyone watching that night. Respect transcends generation. Art transcends trend. And when we stop fighting about who belongs and start celebrating what we're all trying to create, everyone wins. Dean Martin called them kids. Then he called them artists. Then he called them friends. And the Beatles never forgot it. Neither should we.